have an icebreaker.
Nice.
I thought of it today when I was running errands, and I want to know if you guys have any books that, like, when you see them, you immediately think of, like, one of us or, like, the podcast in general. Not just, like, oh, I know Kate and stuff like this book, but, like, for me, like, I'll just go first because this is my example. But, like, if I ever see Margot Has Money Troubles, I always think of Steph.
Yes.
If I see The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I always think of Kate.
Oh.
And then, like, whenever I see Mad Woman, I think of, like, the both of you and, like, the podcast in general. But, like, do you have any books like that, like, when you see them, you're like, oh, I think of these little pumpkins?
Yeah.
Well, I always think of you when I see Bright Young Women.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always and forever. Forever and always.
Could you imagine if you guys were like, no?
We're like, that's such a stupid question.
Yeah, no, I just think of the book, not you. Not everything's about you, Garrett.
But when you were bringing it up, I also thought of Mad Woman, because we've all talked about it now. But yeah, Steph and I were very Mad Woman there for a few months.
Yeah,
so that's what I want to like.
Oh, and An Inconvenient Woman always makes me think of Steph, because she turned me on to that one, and I loved it so much.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Gare?
I'm trying to. I can't wait to have another experience like Mad Woman, where like all three of us were like obsessed over a book.
I know. Mine for Please See Us definitely is a Gare book, and I like remember that reading experience so much because I like was traveling to Florida to visit AJ while he was working there, and I like remember so much of my feelings reading it, even though I like don't remember the book, of course, all of it, but just like certain images of it.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of books I've talked to Kate about, but right now I think was it We Used to Live Here?
Oh, same.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'll think of it and I'm like, I don't know if it's for me, but I know Kate really loved it. It's like maybe I would. Like there's always a question. And, there's books that you're like, I don't know if it's for me, but like when someone you really likes it, you're like, well, but I don't know, maybe someday.
Right.
So I think that one always like sticks out. Whenever I see it, I think of you.
Yeah. I have made it quite clear how much I love that book. I am also psyched. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but it is only like the second video on my channel that's about to break 1,000 views.
That's amazing.
So that one has been doing really well after the fact. And so I'm just using it now to tell anyone, if you want to deep dive into that book, because the nature of that book is deep dive, you can go to my YouTube channel.
And I'm sure people that read it are like, oh my gosh, I need more.
It's a common search term. Yeah.
I like that.
What was the other one? Something else just came to mind, but it left. Ugh. Oh, what I was going to say is this couldn't have been a better icebreaker for this episode, because one of mine makes me always think of one of you.
Oh, really?
So this was such a cool, coincidental pairing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear.
So I guess now's a good time to say
segue
that we are answering Peyton. She has a private Instagram, so I'm just gonna call her Peyton. Her name is Peyton. She reached out and was like, could you do one of these with thrillers that have a romance subplot? Or romance that has a thriller-ish subplot.
Yeah.
Gare has whatever Gare has for this one, okay, guys?
I went with, I'm just going to tell you, all of mine are stories. They're not necessarily like the like smut romance that I usually like talk about, but mine are all like males having interactions with other males. But mine I would consider to be like steamier thrillers, where it's like kind of like your Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that ahead of time. So like when you guys like really follow the assignment and I'm like, well, mine's not exactly romance, but there's like some steamy, because sometimes, you know, romance is a broad term when it comes to what you find to
Oh, I
be.
100%
Okay, so we were
agree.
all having the same experience because mine, I'm like, so this is the best I have to offer for romance.
Yeah.
And like it just means there's like sexiness involved, but not tons of romance.
I mean, I love like a good romance story, like an romance, but I feel like the
Mhm.
ones that involve thrillers for me get really, really, really dark.
Mm.
And like my only trigger warning is like nothing with blood or no animals dying. So like if I recommend like a romantic suspense novel, I don't want to traumatize anyone,
Right.
Oh.
I get that.
you know. I do have one that's traumatizing though, but it's because the suspense part of the story is nightmare inducing.
Ooh.
Wow.
Nice little preview of
And I
yours.
wore pink. Everybody.
I thought about it. I have purple leggings on.
I wore pink
I'm
to
wearing
be
purple for our
festive.
listeners.
Because I
You
am
can't see us.
ready for January to be done, and I'm ready to start binging Valentine's Day themed scary movies to celebrate the season.
Good riddance. For everyone who's listening, we recorded this at the very end of January, so
Thank
that's the
God.
context of where we're at right now.
Mhm.
Oh,
There's still a week left.
I
I know.
know. Well, we'll talk about some
Okay,
books.
wait, I want to hear. I'm like dying to hear what your first book is.
Yeah.
I
Since
know.
there was a segue.
So this one always makes me think of Gare. So it's kind of cool
Yeah.
that you were the one who picked. But I think we haven't talked about the full synopsis of this one in a long time. The
Okay.
Woman Inside by E.G. Scott, aka Elizabeth McCullough Keenan and Greg Wattens, as they become this year.
Nice.
But I think this will always say that it's E.G. Scott who wrote it. If you've been listening to us forever, you know that this is like one of Gare's heart
Gare's
songs,
favorite
essentially.
books.
It's definitely one of my top 5.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of my top 5.
So I don't think we've read like the synopsis anytime recently. So I was like, this would be a good time to bring this up too. Rebecca didn't know love was possible until she met Paul, a successful, charismatic, married man with a past as dark as her own. Their pain drew them together with an irresistible magnetism. They sensed that they were each other's ideal and perhaps only match. But 20 years later, Paul and Rebecca are drowning as the damage and secrets that ignited their love begin to consume their marriage. Paul is cheating on Rebecca, and his affair gets messy fast. His mistress is stalking him with growing audacity when Rebecca discovers Paul's elaborate plan to build a new life without her. And though Rebecca is spiraling into an opiate addiction, it doesn't stop her from coming up with a devious plot of her own. And this one could end absolutely everything. What follows is an unpredictable and stylish game of cat and mouse, a shocking tale of unfaithfulness and unreliability that will keep you racing until the final twist and make you wonder how well you really know your spouse.
Wow.
Oh, God.
I was like, we have to. We have to for this subject.
I just think it's like also like so funny how like I make fun of myself and I'm like, I'm not going to talk about The Woman Inside. I'm not going to talk about Bright Young Women. And you're like, I'm going to pick this one and like on behalf of I just
know.
love that book.
And the fact that today, like I just decided that like an hour before the podcast, I was literally picking up groceries and I was like, I need to do The Woman Inside for this one. So the fact that I randomly thought of that and then that was your icebreaker is so cool.
I like, yeah, well, and the thing, like, the funny thing is that, like, I was listening to, like, I listen to us when I'm in the car, generally. So, like, I was listening to us, like, snacking on my Burger King, running my errands.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what we were talking about, but I think one of you had mentioned Mad Woman. And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, I will never not look at that book and think of the two of them equally. You know, like Steph and Kate, Mad Woman, like it's like this triangle for me.
Yes.
And then I just thought of that icebreaker, so it's really cool that you did that.
Yeah.
That like makes me
Such
so
a fun
warm
episode.
inside.
I know. It really is Palentine's.
It is.
I love that.
Yeah,
It's a Palentine's episode.
it is.
Ugh, now I want to read The Woman Inside again. Gotta go. Do you want me to go next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my first one is a book that has some good steam in it, and it's Edge of Your Seat, and it's called Bathhouse by PJ Vernon.
Yes.
It has one of the sexiest, creepiest openings, and I just thought like this is like such a good book for people to, the gay aspect with like sexual things is not like too overly done, but I think that it's a very great thriller for anyone to read. So it is about Oliver Park. He's a young recovering addict from Indiana, finally having everything he ever wanted: sobriety and a loving, wealthy partner in Nathan, a prominent DC trauma surgeon. Despite their difference in age and disparate backgrounds, they've made a perfect life together. With everything to lose, Oliver shouldn't be visiting Haus, a gay bathhouse. But through the entrance he goes, and it's a line crossed. Inside, he follows a man into a private room, and it's the final line. Whatever happens next, Nathan can never know. But then everything goes wrong. Terribly wrong, and Oliver barely escapes with his life. He races home in a full-blown terror as the hand-shaped bruise grows dark on his neck. The truth will destroy Nathan and everything they have together, so Oliver does the one thing he used to do so well. He lies. What follows is a classic runaway train narrative full of the exquisite escalations, as of the edge of your seat chills, and oh my god twists. I just love
That
that
sounds
book.
really good.
I loved that one so much.
I love that book so much. There is something with books that remind me of like 90s thrillers. So
Ooh,
like Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction, like that era of like thrillers. If I read a book that reminds me of those movies or like how I feel when I watch those movies, it just is chef's kiss for me. And like this is the perfect example of that.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh. It's
It
been a
is.
long time. I think you guys have talked about that book on the podcast like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so I haven't really like thought about it in a while, but as I scroll through like so many people I follow both on Instagram and they're on I follow them on Goodreads too. It's like five like fours and fives, all of them. And they all have like really different taste.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just really good. It's just a really good thriller in general.
When it came out, Steph, you said this in an episode that I listened to today. When I was hanging out with us in the car. But when it came out, it was what you would call one of the Bookstagram darlings.
Oh, nice.
I love that.
that.
I love that term that you used.
Oh, thanks. I forgot where I first heard that, but it just made so much sense. Like, you know, we all know where they are.
Yeah. But when that book came out, it was like all over the place. And I just remember that kind of being like so cool because it's like obviously like a queer author telling a queer story, and it was like getting some of like the hype that like Gone Girl got and stuff like that. So and it's just I will never ever forget that ending.
God, that like cover like this is also just like so sexy. Like I'm just like ooh.
It has multiple wonderful covers. Do you have all the covers?
No, I really, really, really want the paperback one, the orange like silhouette.
I only see the orange and the pink X one. Are there more? I mean, I'm sure there's a UK one, but
I want I have like an arc of it because I was like, I'll give you guys an organ if you send this book to me. But like, I know that like I really want the paperback copy because I love a silhouette too.
Yeah,
that's a book that I always think of you with too.
Me?
Yeah. We're so cute today.
I know. We are like so adorable. It's making me sick.
Yeah. I have no segue for that. Well, actually, speaking of arc, well, kind of. So this one that I'm picking is actually continuing their story in a book that's coming out this March. But this is the first time they were showing it. And it is Hello, Transcriber by Hannah Morrissey. So this is the Black Harbor series. They're all standalones, but they have like Easter eggs in each other. But the fourth book that's coming out is revisiting these characters specifically. Every night while street lamps shed the only light on Wisconsin's most crime-ridden city, police transcriber Hazel Greenlee listens as detectives divulge Black Harbor's gruesome secrets. As aspiring novelist, Hazel believes that writing a book could be her only ticket out of this frozen hellscape, but her life isn't exactly brimming with inspiration, until her neighbor confesses to hiding the corpse of an overdose victim. With an insider's look at the investigation, Hazel becomes spellbound by the lead detective, Nikolai Cole, and the chilling narrative he shares with her. I'm really sucking at reading this with the punctuation. Through this reporting, she learns that a specific death is linked to the Candyman, a drug dealer notorious for selling illegal substances to children. And when Cole invites her on a covert operation to help take the dealer down, the promise of a story calls to her. As the investigation unfolds, Hazel will discover just how far she will go for her story, even if it means destroying her marriage, her career, and any chance she has of getting out of Black Harbor alive. Because if she's learned only one relentless truth about this place, it's the fact that everybody lies. I don't know. That was probably one of the first thrillers I read a few years ago that had like some sexual tension, and I was like, this is good. I like it.
Cole is so hot.
I know, I can tell. I actually really like the way this book ends, and so I'm interested to see like how their story continues.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that one. I love her. Like her imagery and her writing reminds me of how the show The Killing looks.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But like I just think she is so good. And there is one scene in that book that like terrifies the shit out of me that I like constantly think of.
Oh, yeah, she's good. I think about what's the one that is her most recent one? Not the Widowmaker. It's the one newer one. But there's stuff with teeth, and I was like, wow, way to like figure out another like thing that gives me cringy feelings.
Oh.
I wouldn't even say that When I'm Dead.
When I'm Dead, yeah.
I wouldn't even say it's like a spoiler either, but like in Hello Transcriber, there's like a scene where like Hazel thinks that somebody's watching her in a window, and like she looks and sees the person kind of pulling away, and like their breath is still on the window. Ooh. And it was just like so like creepy to me, but I was like, what a fantastic way to like scare the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. And it's like so Midwestern noir, you know, like that.
Yeah.
It's like so you can feel if you're from the Midwest or probably even from like New York or something where it's like the winters are just brutal and it's just dark and kind of gray all the time. Like that's what it is. Hopefully that won't steer anyone away because some people like can't stand that. It's still a really good book.
That's how I feel about like island weather. Like when people are like, oh, this book takes place on like an island and it's 90 degrees and humid. I'm like,
that sounds
like I'm not sure that's for me.
That's horrific.
Like it's an adventure tale of survival. I'm like, not for me.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I would die on day one.
Get me a squeeze breeze. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Well, my next one, I'm laughing again because like, can you really call it romance? But this is one of my favorite marriage related thrillers, My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing.
Ooh.
Just had to remind everyone of this gem. I almost read the wrong thing. Our love story is simple. I met a gorgeous woman. We fell in love. We had kids. We moved to the suburbs. We told each other our biggest dreams, our darkest secrets, and then we got bored. We look like a normal couple. We're your neighbors, the parents of your kid's friend, the acquaintances you keep meaning to get dinner with. We all have secrets to keeping a marriage alive. Ours just happens to be getting away with murder. That's all you get to know. But
love that.
God, that fucking book is wild.
Things go wrong.
Batshit. Yeah.
In wild ways.
I love that book so much.
I think that's my favorite it is my favorite like marriage related thriller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love like your theme too is like marriage thrillers that are like also like anti-marriage. Like these are like
I know.
like the like if you had like a poster for this, like it would be like this is not a love story. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I love that. I mean, granted, I mean Bathhouse, the relationship between the two of
Same.
them is really fucked up too. So you can't really um say anything. But speaking of messed up relationships and what happens when you dive deep into something you were not prepared for, my next one is Seeing Strangers by Sebastian J. Plata. It is a stylish novel of obsession set in a world where sex is just a swipe away. Life is going well for Greg Kelly. He's married to Christian, a Spanish-born artist who is handsome, kind, and can even cook. Greg's work as a translator for an IT startup allows him to live comfortably in a chic Bushwick 2-bedroom and enjoy just about all New York City has to offer, including sleeping with other men. Greg and Christian's marriage has been open for the past few years, and this arrangement has been particularly appealing to Greg due to his voracious sexual appetite. As they approach their mid-30s, fatherhood and adulthood call, and they enlist a friend to act as a surrogate. In order to focus on building a family, Greg and Christian decide to close their marriage when the baby arrives. Greg is going to miss his hookups, but he has the summer for one last hurrah. He methodically plans his connections via Grindr and Tinder, carefully coordinates train routes for lunchtime trysts, and scouts potential candidates anywhere, anytime. As their baby's due date draws closer, anxiety sets in over Greg's impending parental responsibilities, the loss of his sexual freedom, and even his marriage to Christian. But before he can sort out his feelings, an old hookup reappears. Russell, an arrogant TV producer who Greg spurned. And the problem is, Russell will not go away, infiltrating himself into Greg's life in the worst way possible, threatening his marriage and sanity. What Russell doesn't know is Greg will stop at nothing to protect both.
Damn, that's a long synopsis, and the book is
Messy.
257 pages.
I was thinking, I was like,
I know.
Marathon.
I've been trying to keep my dogs quiet, and I'm like, has it been as long as I thought?
Well, it was like really funny because like as I was like getting in the middle of it, I was like, God, I didn't realize how long the synopsis was. And then when I was done, the first thing I see is Kate yawning.
Oh, no.
And I was like, sorry.
Which is more related to, again, my dogs who have not let me sleep this week, but the timing was bad. Yeah, that one, I've got to read that one. I read Bathhouse and meant to read that one, but I haven't yet.
It is so like, I don't know. It's just like so good, and it's so like interesting to read about, like, I don't want to say like cheating because they have an open relationship.
Right.
But like it's so refreshing to like read a story about like an old like third party that enters their situation that's not like, oh, I'm trying to keep this a secret because like, you know, I am married. Like he's like kind of like they have an open relationship and he's like battling between like, oh, I want to like bang as many people over the summer as I can, but like also this like obsessed person is like trying to get in the way of my life. And it's like, you don't realize sometimes how dangerous people can be when you have a one night stand, but like you also don't know how dangerous you can be when you're trying to protect everything that means a lot to you.
Okay, copywriter.
Yeah. That like felt like a really good segue into my next one.
Oh my God, let's go. This is amazing.
Yeah. My next one is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torr.
You guys are fucking crushing
We
this.
all
Like
are.
you guys are like listing like all of my favorite books that I like wish I would have thought of.
Well, I mean, it was hard to pick through. Well, I just have to say this helped me because one of mine was also Samantha Downing's The Twisted Love Story.
Nice.
So I was like, well, Kate talked about Samantha Downing, so I know where I'm gonna like edit my list.
Yeah.
So this one is, my life is simple as long as I follow the rules. 1, don't leave the apartment. 2, never let anyone in. 3, don't kill anyone. I've obeyed these rules for 3 years, but rules are meant to be broken. which is a very short synopsis to say that Deanna Madden, so this is the first of a series of 3 books. She works in her apartment as a like kind of a camera girl. Like she has clients that they do like sex tape type stuff, or she performs for them. And she has a family history that makes her think that she could be dangerous, so that's why she keeps herself locked up in her apartment. But there's a client of hers that gives all the wrong vibes, and so she kind of is thinking of breaking her own rules. It's very it isn't always like spicy like physical sex, but it's definitely like a unapologetic, this is my life and I'm really good at it. And it's just like descriptive, I'll say.
I fucking love that book.
And I like love her. There is a budding romance that goes through the series, and I'm very into that as well.
I still need to read the 3rd one.
Yeah, it's interesting. That plus the author's note. Like, I always wonder if maybe there will someday be a 4th one, but I'm not sure.
I love her.
I just need to read it in general.
Kate, I think you would
fly
love it.
through it. You would read it so fast.
And it's also like, especially right now with like female rage and like female empowerment and everything that's going on in our country, like you would be like, I could see you like fist pumping to this. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's a lot of notes and stuff, but in this book that's like 330 pages, there's 83 chapters, so it's like really quick.
Ooh.
Which I
really
like
speaking my language.
I know you like a fast-paced little book.
I'm obsessed with it. Obsessed.
And if you liked The Last Party,
I loved it.
She just has like that. I think her voice like carries through that, like this book.
That's cool.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm looking at my I'm looking at my collection of all of her books.
Yeah, they're so good.
I know. I want to read more of hers. My next one, though, is someone we've had on the podcast. Actually, Gare and I had her on together.
Nice.
Heather Levy has a book coming out. This will probably be the week we release it, but February 11th. It's called This Violent Heart, and this one is so perfect for it. Because it's actually romantic and not just dramatic. So I'm finally not having a marriage hating recommendation here. Devin Mays thought she was done with a small conservative town she once called home. She fled when she was 18 after her best friend Summer took her own life, leaving Summer's twin brother Keaton lost in his grief. But when tragedy strikes again, Devin has nowhere to turn but back to the place that first broke her heart. Being back in Arcana means struggling with the old guilt that shrouds her bisexuality and her feelings for Keaton. There's so much she's still hiding from him and so much of their shared past that's now resurfacing. It's not long before Devin has reason to believe Summer's tragic death wasn't suicide after all. Summer had secrets too, and she wasn't the only one who didn't want them exposed. As Devin and Keaton piece together the mystery of what happened that fateful summer, they must reckon with their own truths before they can move forward. But one person will do whatever it takes to stop them. I loved this book. It, especially if you love like even the like going back home to like figure something out or to solve something from the past. But I also thought it was, I'm sure it shows up in maybe more romance that's like just romance, but I thought it was fascinating having a teenager who's like friends with twins that are brother and sister, and that's how she realizes she's bisexual, because she has a crush on both of them. And I was really like, cool. That would be so intense, and they're all friends, so there's just all this like tension and pining and all of that. But then there's also this whole mystery happening about what happened in the past.
Oh my God.
And also Devin she's a character from Hurt For Me. So she's in a little bit of that book. So that's kind of cool too.
Oh my god.
That is awesome.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so she kind of like runs in the same world of kink as well.
It's not available for request anymore on NetGalley, so I have to wait for the real thing.
Oh. I have a physical copy.
I might just buy it on.
Okay.
But thank you. I am becoming a Kindle girly.
I can't wait to pop open my little Kindle here.
The matcha.
The matcha.
The matcha baby.
Well, I don't think I'm blurry anymore.
No.
I think it was just the lighting.
You're brighter.
The twinkle lights behind me, and I was relying on natural light, but now, like you said, the bleak winter gray settled in.
Yeah.
This one is probably the most functional relationship that I'll discuss in any book. I've already recommended 100 times The Murder Between Us by Tal Bauer. I love the Cole and Noah relationship and how it starts in that book, but like I don't get to talk about the grave between us enough, but like obviously it's not a spoiler that because it's a duology that Cole and Noah end up together in the first book. So I'm going to talk about the second book because this is one of my favorite thrillers in the entire world, but I also love their relationship, and it's probably one of the scariest serial killers that I've ever read about in my entire reading experience. So The Grave Between Us, it was just one moment. It was one mistake. For years, men have been disappearing. A father in North Carolina, a boater in California, a hiker in Arkansas, and more, scattered across the United States. The FBI knows who's responsible. A serial killer they caught, a man they sent young profiler Cole Kennedy to interrogate. Then the killer escaped, leaving the FBI in chaos and Cole's psyche in tatters. 8 years later, Cole's life has changed. He's found the man of his dreams and he's moved to Iowa to be with Special Agent Noah Downing, leaving the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit and the murderers behind. Or so he thought. An attack on the backgrounds of Iowa shatters the FBI. In the aftermath, they uncover the signature of the last man they expected, the killer that got away. Now he's hunting Noah, and the BAU descends on Des Moines, sending Cole back on the psychological chase. To catch the only man who has ever beaten him, Cole will have to delve inside the killer's mind. It's a place he barely survived before, and the deeper he goes, the more horrors await. And though Noah is ordered to back off the investigation, he won't leave Cole to face his darkness alone. If Cole has any hope in saving the man he loves, he must unravel the killer's twisted profile and follow the trail of death, even if it leads him into a marrow of his worst nightmares.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about how creepy it was when you read that one.
Yeah.
I know that like The Murder Between Us, like the first book, it's like a serial killer who's like killing like college students, so it has that like dark academia vibe, and then like the way that their relationship kind of forms together is like you don't want to stop turning the pages. But like with this one, I was nervous because like it's not like your typical romantic suspense where you're like, oh, I know everyone's going to be safe and everyone's going to be okay. Like he really makes you feel like just as hopeless as these characters do when like they're hunting like they're trying to protect one another, but like also like there's like the most dangerous serial killer that like you will ever read about, who is like will stop at nothing to go after them.
Right.
Yeah. And creepy. Iowa, I don't know, something about Iowa is creepy. When you said Des Moines, I was like, ugh.
Not Des Moines.
But I like,
but I don't know, just like farm field, dark.
This is one of those books though that like I don't like I would fall in love with either one of these men. Like I would be like, I would definitely marry Cole and I would definitely marry Noah. And usually it's like I am like in love with one character more, but like with these two, I'm like, I wouldn't even break up this marriage because I just love them so much.
Oh, I love that. I love when you can root for a relationship in a book, especially a thriller.
Like they deserve each other and they deserve to be like happy for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and it's not the spouse did it. Like they're actually a team kind of.
Yeah. I haven't read like a lot of his other like romantic suspense because I think a lot of them are like CIA, and like as Kate knows, we've had this like conversation, like it'll probably go over my head, but like I really do think that he's my favorite like romance author because of the way he writes his characters, and like it's very realistic how the relationships start. So
Yeah.
that's my Tal Bauer.
Heyo.
Love it.
I like that. I think I'm gonna pick one. So I'm gonna say this. My favorite thriller / romance is the Mindfuck series, but I've talked about it a million times. So I'm gonna highlight something else. However, if someone's truly looking for a good mix of both, I think that is where it's at. Little Spice, actually good couple, and a solid thriller story. I think sometimes like one gets sacrificed for the other when they combine genres.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the last one I have is coming out in March. It's called Killer Potential by Hannah Deitch. Deitch? I don't know.
Yeah.
A scholarship kid with straight A's and big dreams, Evie Gordon always thought she was special, that she'd be someone. But after graduating from an elite university, she finds herself drowning in debt and working as an SAT tutor for the super rich of Los Angeles. Everything changes one Sunday when she arrives for her weekly lesson at the Victor's Beverly Hills estate, and in lieu of a bored teenager, finds the bloody remains of the parents strewn through their beautiful back garden and a woman crying for help within a closet. As Evie works to free her, the two are spotted, and within minutes they go from bystanders to suspects to fugitives. Suddenly at the heart of a manhunt and accompanied by a mysterious woman who refuses to speak, Evie knows the only way to clear her name is to find the real killer. But first she'll have to break down the barriers of her companion, who is quickly becoming the most important person in Evie's upside-down life. Their breathless spree takes them across the United States as developments in the case shock the nation and the press runs wild with Evie's a gifted kid turned killer. Weird. Okay. She's now on the cover of every magazine and newspaper, anointed the new Charles Manson, a bloodthirsty 99%er looking to start a class war. Evie is finally someone. By turns cuttingly hilarious and deeply insightful, Killer Potential is a strikingly original debut, a literary novel with the page-turning intensity of a thriller that asks timely questions about our belief in the romance of social mobility and how the stories we're sold about our potential can shape the course of our lives.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, it has a little queer romance. I like that. I think the ending is interesting as far as like how the romance turns out. And I don't know, it had some moments of being a little like literary, but I think it's just because you're in Evie's head a lot because for a very long time the person she's with is not talking. So like all you can be is like when you're driving across the country is like in your head.
Right.
But it does have a really fun voice.
I love that.
That was a very like the imagery with that synopsis too, where it's like the like body strewn out like the garden, and then there's like a woman locked in a closet. I was like, holy fuck.
I know. It's wild. And it has like there was a moment where when you find out what happens to the person in the closet, I was like ugh, like how she got there. I don't know.
Damn.
It freaked me out. And I think you guys would know what I mean because we've talked about it on the podcast before, like one of the creepy things that we talk about sometimes. So it'd be interesting if you guys read it.
I need to.
I
was just looking at the fact that I have 6 March arcs, but I'm like, why not throw another one in?
I know. How do you spell her name again?
It's Hannah Deitch. It's a yellow with like a purple. I don't think that the person on the cover is a reflection of what the character looks like, but who knows?
Interesting.
It's always interesting cover art and how it reflects the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I also highlight something that if you want a book for Palentine's or Galentine's Day, I think that Cackle by Rachel Harrison is a really good pick.
Ooh.
A really good pick.
I love your bonus
I do. Thank you. I almost turned it, but I was like, no, these people, they asked for some romance and I'm going to give it to them. But I feel like that was a really good one too for the holiday upcoming.
Nice. I've got to start reading Rachel Harrison.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with her now, obviously.
I want to read everything now. Like now I don't even know. Like I was telling Kate earlier today, like I didn't know what I wanted to read and I can't like decide. And now you guys have me wanting to read like books that I've already read that I want to revisit. So now I just really don't know what the hell I'm going to do.
I feel that. I know I don't have any book clubs in February, so I don't have anything I have to read until March because I'm all caught up on most of my arcs. So it really is kind of like, well, what do I feel like?
Yeah.
It's kind of
that's a good place to be.
Yeah, it is really nice.
I have 7 arcs in February and then I have like 10
really
in March. Yeah.
Wow.
I need to start on my March ones, that's for sure.
I went a little Bookwild. I
love it.
You mean Bookwild?
Yeah, like literally, like I went Bookwild on NetGalley this week and I requested like 9 books on NetGalley.
Ooh.
Because I was like, my matcha baby is going to be full of arcs.
She's going to be full.